Hello, my name is Mackenzie Iburg,
Hello, I am Tomas Andrade.
Hi, my name is Andon, Papa.
and we will be explaining, evaluating, and interpreting the merger of 2000 between AOL and Time Warner.
Now first, I'm gonna give a brief background of both companies. AOL is an American web portal and online service provider based in New York City. AOL is currently marketed by Verizon Media. AOL was one of the early pioneers of the internet in the mid-1990s, and their most recognized brand on the web in the US. On the left-hand side picture, you can see how AOL used to look like, very different to today's servers. Now, Time Warner. Time Warner was an American cable television company before it was acquired by Charter Communications on May 18, 2016. The company was ranked the second largest cable company in the United States by revenue behind only Comcast, operating in 29 states. Now, what is a merger? A merger is an agreement that unites two existing companies into one new company. Three key points of mergers are: mergers are a way for companies to expand their reach, expand into new segments, or gain market share. A merger is the voluntary fusion of two companies on broadly equal terms into one new legal entity. And the five major types of mergers are conglomerate, congeneric, market extension, horizontal, and vertical. A brief background on AOL's and Time Warner's merger. On January 10, 2000, America Online, AOL, announced it will buy Time Warner for $182 billion in stock and debt, making it the largest corporate merger in the US history. This merger happened mostly because of the bubble of the internet. Everything that had to do with the internet was priced very high by the stock market, and AOL was one of the big companies at that moment.
The discussion for reasons of mergers include value creation, diversification, acquisition of assets, increase in financial capacity, and incentives for managers. We will review why AOL and Time Warner chose which reasons that they would focus on with this vision of creating a mass internet presence. So, organizational change, some organizational background of both AOL and Time Warner. So, like Tom said, in January of 2000, American Online communicates to the world that it will be buying internet company known as Time Warner. So, this was AOL trying to expand into the new segments and merge both companies to offer both cable, internet, and phone services. Much like today, we see Verizon as a provider of all of those things. AOL wanted to become one of the first to do so. CEO Steve Case would be leading the transition of AOL and Time Warner Cable. This would have said to be the market value of $350 billion once the merger was in effect. They had a clear vision in becoming the biggest media and online presence that there ever was to date. This was a horizontal merger because they were similar industries in the technology world, so we see the joining forces of both to become a major internet presence. We would like to take a look deeper into organizational change and why this is considered a planned organizational change. So first, you need to identify the need for change. In this case, they wanted to offer a complete service of the tech world. So they identified their need for change. They determined the elements that needed to be changed, and this was in order to get the cable capability, they had to merge with Time Warner Cable. So their planning went into effect. They assessed the change forces, their actions for changing, unfreezing, changing, and refreezing, and feedback for review. So when they did go to merge, the companies went on record saying that this would be a merger of equals. However, despite this statement, AOL shareholders were subjected to own 55% of the new corporation, with the remainder of the shares being distributed to the Time Warner Cable shareholders, which was only 45% of the companies.
So, here we are going to start to explore why this was such a failed merger. And by many analysts, this is considered as the worst merger of all times. Now, just to prove this fact, in today's stock market valuation, both their values are 1/7 of their worth the day that they of the merger. So, why was this such a failed merger? Now, the first reason is the dot-com bubble. In the early 2000s, many companies were trying to keep up with the technology advancements as they were trying to gain more of their platform into the online space. As many companies were trying to get to the online world, the bubble came to burst and the economy went into recession. Now, another contributing factor to the failure of this merger was the business models. AOL was a dominant player on the online field. They had a very sky high stock market valuation, while Time Warner was a cable network who had tried and failed many times to establish an online presence before the merger. Now, the goal of both Time Warner and AOL was to establish an online presence, and Time Warner was to gain online presence via AOL servers and network, while AOL in turn would use and gain access to Time Warner's cable network as well as content. Now, the last contributing factor to the failure of this merger was the different cultures. Uh, Merging cultures of the combined companies was problematic from the very beginning. And then, as we saw it, even on their business models, AOL was labeled as representing a more aggressive and arrogant culture compared to the more staid and corporate Time Warner side. There was mutual disrespect from the very beginning, and there was no cooperation during the merger process. Now, here we these would be our suggestions to any organization that would plan to go through a merger, and how would what steps need to be taken in order to make the merger a successful one. First, we need to start. Each company needs to have a clear and detailed plan. Now, this means that they will have a clear vision and statement, and they will stick as closely to that mission as possible. Then the second step will be the leadership. The leadership needs to be strong, and as we mentioned before, they need to be all aligned to the vision and the statement first presented with the planning phase. Now, the third step will be the maintenance. This is where the company and also the management team ensures that the change remains a priority, and that's the most important thing at the time. And of course, tying all things together, management. The importance of management is critical because we make at this stage not only the people but the systems as well need to be all in place and on the same page to make sure as you know the change and the transition is as smooth as possible.
Some lessons learned and some recommendations our team does have for any tech companies that are wanting to merge in the future. So we see right away that there was a huge upfront investment. Still till this day, it's one of the largest market value mergers of all time at that 350 billion. So rather than being staged or a sequence of resources, they did a huge upfront investment. In the beginning, all the leaders were convinced that they had the answers and they were not willing to stray from that course. We recommend, and this is for any leader going through any sort of organizational change. So we encourage these individuals in these leadership positions to be open to change and open and offer a democratic environment for their employees to weigh in on the change. Throughout this course, we have discussed and spoken about the importance of weighing in from employees, because in order to have any successful organizational change, employees must be on board and both stakeholders. Untested assumptions are taken as facts. So we see that AOL and Time Warner just were guessing and publishing them as facts to both their internal and external stakeholders. So we always recommend to fact check and plan for the unknown. Of course, the burst of the internet bubble was unknown, but you have to have some sort of plan in place if your merger does fail, what would be the next steps? And we didn't see this with Time Warner or AOL. They had a massive uncertainty and a sense of time pressure. They wanted to keep up and become the best before any other company were going to come out and offer these products and services. So they were pressed for time. So we recommend planning thoroughly. Don't react. Instead, remain transparent and be honest to form trust between both your internal and external stakeholders. We think that trust builds relationships, and once you have those relationships, you can effectively implement a merger. So that's what we have learned from the two companies merging, and as you can see, they did fail. However, we have Tom that overviewed both companies are still in existence, but they are under different branches of organizations. So these are just our references and some of the sources that we used during this presentation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.